The day after Christmas, I decided to give myself a little bit of a treat. I decided to go see Uncut Gems and Little Women back to back. And let me tell you, seeing Uncut Gems at 9 a.m. and then Little Women 30 minutes later is a whiplash of a double feature. The first pumps you full of adrenaline, candidly showcasing the underbelly of New York, therefore reflecting back on us the dangers of obsession, while also revealing beauty in the grotesque and vice versa. Little Women, on the other hand, is a 2-hour heated blanket with a cup of cocoa on a lazy, snowy morning, embracing you with patented Gerwig warmth and sentiment, taking a Civil War-era story and making it engagingly relevant to modern concerns of personal expression and women's autonomy in society. On the surface, these films could not be more different from each other, yet they share a few random similarities. Both distribution studios thought these movies should be released to wider audiences on Christmas Day. Both films come from young, exciting directors just starting to be more widely recognized, and both were some of my most anticipated movies of the year. Uncut Gems from the Safdie brothers sees Adam Sandler playing Howard, a jewelry seller in New York with a clear gambling addiction. His insatiable desire to not only gamble his money, but place bets using everyone else's money has gotten him into trouble with a seemingly endless amount of hustlers and collectors. We meet Howard right in the middle of his debt problems, where he makes his bad situation even worse by loaning out a colorful, extremely rare gem to a basketball player. Howard spends the next few days clumsily fumbling between shady deals, failing to dodge beatdowns, and barely surviving each tense encounter before continuing the cycle all over again. Sandler carries the movie on his shoulders as we barely leave Howard's side throughout the entire 2-hour runtime. Sandler's natural charisma makes it difficult to dislike Howard, even though he often makes the worst decisions and creates his own ever-growing list of problems. Through his performance and the Safdie brothers' direction, we get an intimate look at the life of an addict. So intimate, in fact, that we meet Howard through his colonoscopy screening, as it takes over the previous images of ethereal cosmic colors inside the gym that eventually kickstarts the conflict. This introduction is a thesis statement of sorts, as it conveys how beauty and ugliness are intertwined, barely distinguishable when viewed under a microscope. Howard sells beautiful, often gaudy, gemstones, watches, necklaces, even bedazzled Furbies. Yet his personal business, the way he gets ahead in life, is through ugly gambling and swindling. He trades money so haphazardly it's difficult to keep up with whose money is going where, which bets are going to pay which person. Even Howard himself loses track throughout the movie as more plots intertwine and affect each other. Despite being thrown into the middle of the various plots and relationships, it's not difficult to figure out where this all started. For Howard though, this is what he thrives on. Every basketball game, every possible deal, every bet placed fills him with energy and joy, more than any other action in his life. Even though he's followed by countless hitmen, crushed his personal relationships, and generally lives in a constant state of stress and paranoia, the utter joy he feels when one of his gambles pays off is nothing short of euphoric. Uncut Gems is like a high-stakes, seedier version of Steve McQueen's Shame, which takes a serious look at the life of a sex addict. Where the latter is soul-crushing yet beautifully shot, the former is hilarious, overstimulating, and yet equally beautiful in its candid cinematography. Howard's life is controlled by the need for that big score, that rush of energy and excitement. No matter how far he gets, he always needs another hit. He always needs another gamble putting his life on the line. Despite often being absurd, disorienting, and hilarious, Uncut Gems does end on a melancholy note that is generic for movies about addicts, but works in this context as it feels like one of the few moments where there is some relief from the constant stress and migraine-inducing conversations. With my body detoxing from Uncut Gems, I walked into Little Women in a daze, hoping for a film that was just as lovely as all my friends had raved about. Within the first few minutes, where Saoirse Ronan's Jo March tries to sell her short story to a stuffy journal editor, I knew I was in for something special. Gerwig brings the warmth and non-rose tinted nostalgia from Lady Bird and brilliantly supplants it into this classic story of 4 women trying to find their way in a post-Civil War era America. I went in never having read the book or seen any of the countless film adaptations, so the cross-cutting flashback structure of the film felt natural to me. After some research, I now realize this choice is truly inspired. By starting the movie at the halfway point of the story, and then intercutting with the beginning of the narrative, Gerwig is able to cinematically compare and contrast these 2 points in each person's life. The past, despite having its own hardships, always seems nicer and simpler. Any issues from this time have a resolution, that is at least until they rear their ugly heads again in the present, immune to those past solutions. These flashbacks are bathed in orange light, providing a comforting contrast to the cold blue present. We also get a strong sense of the family dynamics from these flashbacks, with every actor giving amazing performances. Ronan is fantastic as always, managing to make Jo March less fictionally artistic and more grounded. Emma Watson and Eliza Scanlon are equally great in their roles. Despite not having as much screen time as Jo or Amy, these two manage to convey so much about themselves with their interactions and performances. Scanlon's quiet Beth March may not take center stage for most of the film, but her presence is felt throughout. The standout is Florence Pugh as Amy March, playing a younger, bratty sister who is impossible not to love. We see just how much time has changed her from the flashbacks, and she manages to play both sides of Amy without missing a beat. I'm under the impression that Amy was a smaller and more antagonistic character in the book and in other adaptations. But here she is very practical and sympathetic, as her very specific worldview, which is directly informed by the treatment of women in society at the time, is presented as reasonable. One of my favorite aspects of Gerwig's Little Women is how it supports every woman's lifestyle choice. While Jo is searching for independence and actively wants to not be tied down as a housewife, Watson's Meg is not chastised for falling in love and wanting to spend the rest of her life with someone. Beth's quiet and humble nature is encouraged rather than criticized, and Amy's financial view of marriage isn't seen as misguided, but rather as an intelligent choice. Each woman's goals are treated with respect and encouragement, because every woman is trying to define their role in life. Jo's struggle comes from a desire to be heard, to be an independent voice through her writing, yet this conflicts with her desire for companionship, for family. I believe this is an issue that many young creative people face, where they reconcile with wanting to be original and daring, yet deep down they still desire the cliches they've grown accustomed to. Little Women ultimately focuses on how young women define themselves in society, how they fight and struggle for autonomy, especially in a society that loves to put them into boxes. Yet the movie doesn't begrudge those who decide to place themselves in those societal boxes, understanding that for some people those are ideal situations. In a meta moment near the end, the film openly acknowledges how conventional expectations can be at once stifling and rewarding, with the film's story ultimately having its cake and eating it too. Reaching the end of my thoughts about two of the best movies of 2019, I realized that they do have something else in common. Both Uncut Gems and Little Women focus on the conflicts between individuals and society present in our everyday lives. Howard is driven by greed, by a capitalist system that rewards his reckless behavior by giving him not only wealth, but the ability to appear wealthy. His addiction cannot be treated because the system itself is rigged against him, to fuel his passion. The March family struggle with poverty during and after the Civil War, but this struggle also informs their worldview. Like how the March sisters all struggle between artistic dreams and having the monetary means to do so. In order to have the freedom to be creative, you need to be financially stable to not worry about it. In order for women to be financially stable at this time, they need a husband as a property owner. Yet marriage takes over their lives, and the conflict arises. Which do you value more, the married life or the creative one? Neither film necessarily has an answer to these problems, but they do have conclusions for their characters. We see the repercussions of societies that instill these economic and social values, and how people navigate through it all. As we leave 2019 for 2020, and global issues of economics, politics, and societal standards continue to mount, it's comforting to see this year end with two movies dealing with societal issues in very different ways, finding their own voices within this hellscape. In terms of film, the 2010s end with an equal amount of intensity and comfort when discussing modern concerns. Let's hope 2020 doesn't stop questioning and interrogating society's ills.
As a woman who wants to write and as a woman who wants to direct, I stand on so many people's shoulders who came before me, but for me, I wouldn't do it. Louisa made it possible. Like Louisa writing the story of her life and her sisters and giving it space on the page and saying that women's internal lives are worth something. That's incredible, and it is this, it's this female utopia, and she gave it space, and she didn't even know, really. But that's how these things work. I think sometimes the future reaches down and pulls you forward.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming. Thank you.